Warning, this podcast may contain bad language and some musicians that people may find offensive because of their lyrical content.
Content?
Yes, as in, are you lyrically content with their lyrical content?
Language is confusing. I hope we don't talk too much about language today.
I got something to tell you. Welcome to Seesaw Podcast with T and Cleves.
Each week, offering up a blurry perspective on life. We are joined by a fellow podcaster, another guest. Aren't you lucky? And you actually are really lucky because we managed to get Lance Johnson of the See Through podcast. Hey, man.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. I've been wanting to get you on for ages, just like scheduling, you know how it is. So.
I genuinely thought as well when you did that introduction, there was that short pause before you said his name, as if I thought for a second you'd forgotten it.
I was tempted to just kind of sit here to kind of just create that dead space, myself,
Was using Zoom as well, so you have to make a noise so the camera goes to you and then just sit there in silence, because then it'd be
Yeah.
So how's it been going, man? Haven't spoken to you for ages.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Life's good. Same old, man. Not much new, except I've been putting out more episodes, the podcast, and just trying to grow this thing, man. It's a grind.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been going around the same time as you, and we completely feel that. It's peaks and troughs sometimes.
Definitely. But I'm excited to talk, man, because it's cool when I'm on the other side. I don't have to worry about editing or anything like that. So it's just a lot of fun because I just get to sit here and talk, and I don't have to worry about the technical aspect of it.
Neither do I, mate.
Well, yeah.
Leave the editing for us.
You deserve a raise, man.
I'll give him a raise. A raise on nothing is still nothing.
I'm going to siphon all of the money out of the Seesaw account. All 23 pence of it, and then put it towards, I don't know, a pint at the end of the year at the Seesaw Christmas party.
Man.
Yeah, we're tracking. You might get
making money off of podcasting it's like, people think that it's easy, but it's like very, very, very difficult.
Oh yeah, it's a tricky one. Like you know, Lance, like it comes down to sort of striking that balance of what you want to do and what people want to hear. And it's like, do you sell yourself out a little bit to be a bit more sort of widespread? Well, maybe.
There are definitely topics that are off limits, and that you kind of, once you're around enough, you kind of learn what they are. I think that's where it does get tricky. Sometimes you'll want to talk about something, but you're like, maybe I should just not touch it. Just out of fear of losing the audience or whatever. But, I also have a theory that sometimes that stuff is what people want to hear about too. So if you do talk about it, you're more likely to get like engagement. It could be bad engagement, but I don't know. It's tricky.
Publicity.
Yeah, I agree.
Regular listeners will know we don't pull any punches.
Well, you know what people like about that is like they know they're getting you. So when you say something, they believe it. And I think that's powerful, and I think that's what people want, whether they disagree with you or not. Sometimes it's just nice, even when you disagree with someone, it's just nice to know that you actually believe them. You know what I mean?
But anyway, enough about us. Let's talk about you. Why podcasting, man? Like, you started around the same time we did, and you're on YouTube primarily, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. The first 50 episodes I did, I have 70 episodes out now, where the first 50 were just audio only. But I work in video production. I'm a video editor for a living. So it just kind of made sense to start putting video versions of the podcast up. So I started doing that. It's just more editing, more technical work on my end. But it's been fruitful. Like, once I've started putting out videos, it's been helpful. But why podcasting? Well, filmmaking is which is what I went to school for, and I've dabbled in it, and made a few short films. It's just so expensive, and it involves so many people that it takes years to get anything done, really. And then most of the time you'll go broke from it. Like the last short film I made, I think I spent out of my own pocket like $5,000, and I didn't get any money out of it at all. So it's like I was in a negative. yeah, I got some like publicity or whatever, but not really, it didn't get me like, a job or anything. Like my jobs have always gotten me jobs. Like my side projects never really have. So I just kind of wanted an outlet to where I could be productive, put something out on the regular. Because at first I was looking into doing a documentary, and I was like, oh, I'm going to interview people who have visual impairments, who have RP, and then just going through the logistics of that, I was just like, man, podcast would be actually a lot easier. I can do it remotely. The pandemic just started too, so that was another thing. So then I started podcasting. Also, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time, so I like the format and I understand like the structure of it. And I had the technical knowledge to do it, because I work in video, so half of that's audio. So it was an easy thing for me to jump into. I started out with audio and just started interviewing people, and I didn't really know where it was going to go, and I'm not still quite sure if it's went anywhere, but I've met a lot of people, made a lot of friends, and I've learned a lot about myself in the process just through talking to so many people. And then I also just feel more comfortable in what my future has in store. Cause like before I started the podcast, I didn't really know much about people's lives with RP or disabilities. And my podcast is centered around that. I interview people from you could have a visual impairment to you could, have cerebral palsy. Like I interview all people with any disabilities, and I have retinitis pigmentosa, and I'm in the process of losing my vision. And for the longest time, I put that off. And this podcast was kind of a way for me to not put off thinking about it and processing it. From talking to others, it's like me just talking to my guests and trying to learn, like, what should I expect as, in the future when I, continue to lose my vision. And it's helped me go from like a more gloom and doom approach to more just like feeling confident and just more at ease with what the future has in store for me. So it's like, I have a million reasons why I do it, but the main one is like just to learn more and feel comfortable about, what my future has in store for me with RP. And then also I just like doing it. It's a creative outlet for me. So it's a win-win on both of those. I also add in there, I work as a video editor, like I said, so I work on a lot of commercials, and they're like soulless.
Yeah.
So it's like just marketing, selling products and pushing, things that most of the time I wouldn't personally vouch for, but hey, it pays the bills. So I'm cool with it. So this is an outlet for me to kind of a creative outlet where I feel like I'm actually like putting something out in the world that's useful. So it helps me kind of balance the negative feelings I get from my work, because if I just had my commercial editing work and that was it, I would be going stir crazy. I always have to have a side project or something going on to keep me busy. I like to keep busy. And this podcast makes that easy because it's like a constant thing, as you guys know, booking guests and interviews, editing, making the content to promote it, all that. So definitely is more than enough to keep me busy. So I think that's why it's been such a natural thing for me to keep doing, and why I haven't stopped, because I like being busy like this. I just never had a project that allowed me to constantly make things.
And like you say, there's always something to do as well. Like you're never
Exactly.
finished, are you?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's good for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm like trying to stay busy to avoid like thinking about something. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it, but that's just, I'm more at peace when I'm doing something.
No, it makes sense, man. But productivity is the key to a lot of this. And especially, you're going through a tough journey. We're all going through our own sight loss journey in different levels over different timelines. And it sucks. Let's be frank. It absolutely fucking sucks. But you want to stay busy. You want to be productive. You want to do things that empower you. And that's the most important thing. And like podcasts, like you said, is outside of what you're paid to do. And we all dream of bigger and better things. Like we want to take off and make this primary sort of income. Of course we do. But just doing it, you have 100% creativity. And it's something that you have control over. It's all you. You're the one putting in everything. And it's such validation if you are losing your sight to be like, well, no, I'm putting out great stuff regardless, even if you're looking over a cup of coffee in the morning every day, like I do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the 100% creative control is the biggest one too, because every other project, I have people I send my edits to, and then they give me notes, and it's like I have no say in it really. So it's nice to have full creative control over a project, and down to like the colors I use and how I, down to what I write in the social media captions or whatever. So it's full control. It's fun. Lets me play around and experiment, try different things.
I'm glad to hear it, man. Gotta have that outlet.
Gotta have the outlet, at least for me, and I've been having fun, and seeing growth is cool too,
Yeah, absolutely. And you do great show. I was gonna say good show. So that's a great show.
Appreciate it.
And like you're rolling with the punches, like you're putting out shorts and stuff like that. So
I'm trying everything. I'm trying everything there is. That's kind of another part of it that I don't think people think about too much who are not in it in the game. The podcasting game is like there's all these different ways, and it's like you'll find yourself like watching a YouTube video about how to make your video perform better. It's like stuff that you wouldn't find yourself normally doing, and trying YouTube shorts, join TikTok, even though you think it's evil, all these different things. So it's like learning, and it helps me kind of, I almost feel like I could be like have a career in like social media marketing or something now from all the research I've done. It's just from being hands-on with it, you just learn so much, what works, what doesn't. It's kind of interesting.
Amazing. Like, we've got to do a bit of that ourselves, I think.
You guys are heavy on big on Twitter.
Yeah, we do a lot of Twitter, but not really elsewhere. It took me the longest time to even know what TikTok was. Show my age a little bit. It's like,
I put it off for the longest time because it just weirded me out. It still weirds me out, but it has its time and place, I guess. Yeah, if you can do like a hashtag like blind talk, and there's like a bunch of people follow that hashtag, and it's like people in the blind community. So you can reach a lot of people. It's just with doing that, you'll reach a lot of people that you don't want to reach.
Yeah.
And you'll reach a lot of people that you're happy you're connecting with. But that's the downside with this too, is like when you put yourself out there publicly, whether it's criticism or just a positive exchange, you're putting yourself out there to talk and engage with people. And I'm introverted, and sometimes it's like, man, if someone DMs me and wants to ask me to come on, the podcast or whatever, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know how to respond to this. Like, maybe I want you on, but I don't know. Like, sometimes it's like the messaging and the responding to comments and all that. It's just kind of, it's a little bit overwhelming. So
yeah,
that's one thing I haven't really gotten used to yet.
Well, sometimes just ignore them. Especially on Reddit, that is happening a lot on the Reddit, because it's like, nah, I'm not engaged in that. I just can't get into this, especially with what we talk about sometimes.
Yeah, no. So you guys have a Reddit?
Yeah. So we do go on Reddit, and just for more promotion, we go into the r/blind subreddit and subtly drop our stuff there because the mods don't like promotion. So gotcha. There may or may not be some ghost accounts of myself are like, oh, this show is fantastic. Maybe you guys should listen to this.
That's smart.
Well, we tried legitimately once, and then like immediately the mods were like, don't promote yourself. It's like, why? Come on, man. Like, be cool, man. Not all of these Reddits have to be about depression and how to claim the most benefits. And still valid points, but not every article, not every subreddit has to be that.
Yeah, I know what you mean with that, because I'm part of this like Facebook group called Retinitis Pigmentosa, and that's what most of that is. It's kind of people expressing, sad stories and sad feelings, and it's nice that they have that outlet, but it does seem like that's 75% of what's there. With me, and I'm trying to think on the positive side. I'm trying to be on that kind of side of the spectrum. Sometimes I just don't even like looking on there. And then if I post something that's like positive, it's almost like it gets zero love. But if you post a complaint, and it's like, it gets like blown up,
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird what works and what doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard because we have a very niche audience, right? And even within that niche audience, it's like I'm not even sure how much our audience even wants a podcast about blindness or disability, because they're just like I know one guy who has a podcast, and he doesn't even he doesn't listen to anything because he's like, well, I deal with it all day. I don't want to hear about it, in my free time. So I'm like, that makes sense. But some people are eager for it. But, you just take a niche audience, and then you take maybe half of that audience doesn't even want the content. Like for me, I make videos, but I have a YouTube channel, but I'm making a lot of videos with guests that have blindness, and maybe they don't even want to go to YouTube because maybe it's like a waste, So it's like I'm promoting a YouTube channel for a blind audience. So it can get tricky. And it's something that most podcasters, I don't think, have to really factor in.
Maybe you should move into audio description and start audio describing your own videos.
Yeah. You know what, man? I would love to have all that stuff, but that's one thing that I'll be honest with you two about is I get annoyed at how much effort has to go into something for it to be accessible.
Oh,
and it's a fucking pain in the ass, man. Cause it's like, oh, I got to take the time to make this post, and I spend all this energy, and now I got to write an image description that's going to take me extra 5 minutes to write. And I totally get why the image description's needed, but it's just like, I'm already doing so much. Like I'm a one-man team doing everything.
Yeah.
And then now I gotta like I've had people be like, why don't you have transcriptions of your episodes? And I'm like,
we got called out for that recently.
Yeah. Cause that costs money and a lot of fucking time. And I'm doing this all on my own in my free time. Like, I'm sorry, but that's why and that kind of goes along with the territory. Like a lot of people claim, like, the world isn't built for disabled people. And to a degree, that's true.
Cause it takes extra time and effort.
Because it takes extra time and effort that, that you can't be naive and say it doesn't.
No, absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I'm like,
completely get it. Yeah.
People really kick off when stuff isn't accessible. And I'm a little bit on the fence in the sense that you've got to look at it from the other side as well. And it does take that time and effort.
Well, that's what happened with the transcription. We got called out, and it's like, where's your transcription? It's like, we don't have any. It's like, why don't you have any? It's like, dude, it costs money. It takes time, like you said, Lance. Like, it's just so much into it. And like I said, we'll look into it. And then we have someone recently has offered to do transcriptions for us, just so they can get themselves out there, a little bit of promotion. I don't know if I can do the back catalogue. It's like, we wouldn't expect you to. It's nearly 100 episodes. Like,
yeah,
absolutely not. Like, if you want to do it going forwards, we'll give you the shout out. We can't pay you necessarily. We'll flag you, but at the same time, it's like, we can't get someone doing 100 episodes back content. No, it's like, that's why we put all our stuff on YouTube, because like closed captioning. There you go.
Boom. Yeah, I've said that before too. I'm like, well, there's go on YouTube, but then to be fair, if you want like an accurate, like a well-made transcription, there's tons of typos and errors and that stuff too. So I get that too, but it's like what they don't factor in, people who get irritated at that. And it's like, I get your irritation, but at the same time, like you said, look at it from the other side. I'm making all this stuff for free, putting it out for free. You're not having to pay me for it. It's not like you paid me money and then you can't access it.
Yeah.
And then would you rather me not make content? Because if I had to spend that time making it accessible, that's less stuff I'm going to make. And then, all right, so would you rather me take the time to make it accessible, or would you rather me make as much content as possible promoting, the blindness and disability communities? Mm-hmm. Which one do you want? And it's all for free. So it's like, what do you want? It's free. Literally, it's free.
Yeah.
It's free. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. Like, we're indie podcasts at the end of the day. Yeah, we're a 2-man crew. You're a 1-man crew. Like, you have to prioritize things.
People just don't really understand the time it takes as well to get all that kind of stuff done.
Yeah. And we all work. Like, this is a hobby. This is on the side. Like, this is the 9 till 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we do that, and then in the evening we have to do the social media, we have to do the edit, we have to do like guests, and we have to do everything else. It's like
The show description, for the episode.
It's like, do we want to do another 6 hours a week worth of manual transcription?
Yeah, and they if they find out a way to automate it to where it's easier, I'll 100% do it. But I'm not, like you said, I'm not going to spend 6 hours doing it.
No, I get you, man. So, shall we jump in to a little bit of a cheeky topic?
Let's do it.
So, I keep saying so, and it really annoys me.
Don't worry, I cut most of those out.
I know you do.
Oh man, when I did audio episodes, my episodes were so much cleaner. Like I sounded like so much better as a host because I could cut out all the ums and all that. And now it's video; it's just like there, and I get self-conscious sometimes. I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, you say a lot. Oh, you say so a lot. But I've learned the more I do it, the more I get comfortable with it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, you better believe the YouTube version of this will be unedited. I top and tail it, put in the credits and the intro, and that's what you get. Like, that's literally what you get.
It works.
Well, we make money. I might get a decent rig to do it properly, but at the moment, I'll make do with the 2 staplers and a motor that I'm working with. Right, it's just basically what I've got. Cool. So, as I said it again, I thought it'd be a great idea, especially with some of the content you've popped out recently.
Yeah.
Talk about language within the disability community and the power of it. Mm-hmm. Is it really such a big deal? And also, who's making these rules saying that one thing is bad to say, one thing isn't bad to say? I will say, for those people out there, you know who you are. You're listening now. I know it. I know you. This is just a discussion point, and I will say that. And it sucks that we have to say this now. It just allows us to not pull the punches and have something to go back on.
When you let into the mic there, it was a little bit creepy, like when you were talking about how you know them, as if you sort of stand outside the house and watch them a little bit from the street sometimes.
Well, I stand outside the house, but I don't watch them. It comes with blindness, mate.
You watch them leave. You guide us to do the watching.
Follow.
Yeah.
So language. Let's start off with some of the more recent events that have happened.
There's a lot of them.
Let's start with Lizzo, shall we?
Lizzo.
Should Lizzo have changed the lyrics of their song?
Have you saw that Beyonce did the same thing, right?
Yeah, I did see that as well.
And then Eminem now he's in the hot seat because he just put out a song with the same word. But then I'm like, this is kind of what I'll say, man, because it's like, should she change the word? I think that's up to Lizzo. Do I care if she changed the word? No, I don't. I could care less what Lizzo puts in her music. But like, that's what people are getting upset about with that word. Like in that song, there's like a part where she talks about basically castrating a male. If you look at the lyrics, but it's like, okay, let's just leave that. That's fine. She can talk about castrating a male, but she uses a slang term that she innocently didn't know that it had any negative connotation to it. And most of the people listening to her music didn't know. So yeah, I think, should she have changed it? That's up to her. But if I was Lizzo, all right. So
you try to be diplomatic.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Man. Come on, you can say your mind.
Well, here's the thing. So Lizzo, she had her, if you think about her audience, right? She has a very specific audience that she's trying to keep in good graces. So I think from Lizzo's perspective, I think as a business transaction, changing the lyric was smart for her.
Yeah.
Because she has a more woke audience that's who she attracts, and that's her audience. If I made a song and I used that word and I didn't know the negative connotations of it, I wouldn't have changed the lyrics. So that's how I'll say it. From Lizzo, since from a business perspective, I think she was smart to do it. Do I think the logic is sound? No. But do I think in a business transaction? Yes.
It's a bit bad within that song. Like you say, there was the whole part about male castration, but people got hung up on an actual word as opposed to, the actual themes and meanings behind other parts. It just seems so odd.
It is odd. And then the thing with Eminem, it's like Eminem has songs about murdering his wife and like all, like uses all sorts of other, offensive language. But that's the word you want to cancel him for? Like, that's the word? Mm-hmm. And it's just like most popular music, if you listen to it, has so much offensive just content and topics that are covered and rapped about, you know, or sung about, you know. It's like a bunch of gun violence, drug use, you know, very sexist language in a lot of rap music. But that's fine. You can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about with fucking bitches and then kicking them out the door or whatever. But hey, don't use this word. As a woman, I'm not offended that you can basically treat me as a sexual object in most of your music. But if you use this one word that's very niche and offensive to a very niche population, that's where I draw the line. It's like, what? It's just like the logic of it's very weird. And then Beyonce, where I think Beyonce messed up is was she not watching the news?
Yeah.
You know, like that came like a month or so after. It's like, did you not just see what happened? So it's just, some of it's weird. The people who got offended by that, like, they're just like, we know what kind of person they are. They're the ones that they're gonna, even if they didn't complain, have some Lizzo to complain about, they would have tweeted some other complaint. You know, it's just something that they found to complain about. There's always an infinite amount of things that someone's going to tweet about, and this one's good, I can use this one this week. Boom, tweet, and that's what a lot of it is.
But it's so much power, though. How has such a minority? Let's be fair. It wasn't a word that would have offended me as a disabled individual. I know it's referring very much to another disabled group.
Yeah.
But within the disabled community, like, you can't get offended on other people's behalfs. And I know people who have cerebral palsy, which this is a slur for. They wouldn't have given a shit. They're like, whatever, it's a good song, man. Like, I don't care. Like, I really don't. Like, and they wouldn't even give it a thought. But then for one individual or a small group of individuals within that community to be able to change an artist's work, you know?
It's an artist's work, and it's art too. People forget that it's art, you know, and that's their personal expression. And if Lizzo grew up using that word and like that's part of her life's, you know, vocabulary, use the word.
I wonder whether we should be pandering to the meekest society, in the sense of the most offendable part of society, that also seem to have found a voice through social media and being able to shout loudly that way.
Yeah. And that's when I talked about when I talk about it being a business transaction, I think it was smart. But this is where it gets dangerous, like for creators and artists or whatever. It's like, if that becomes the norm, where let's say Lizzo was just like, I'm not changing that word, she probably would have gained new fans because they would have appreciated that she didn't, and then that she did change the word. So who knows what would have worked out better for her in the end. And I think sometimes just people just choose to not take a risk, and that's the safer bet. And that's kind of my goal as an independent podcast. I never want to have anyone above me and tell me what I can and can't say. You know, like if that ever happens, like if someone wanted to come, even if it was a lot of money, and they were like, we want to take over your podcast for you. Here's the people you're going to interview. Here's the topics we're going to cover. I'd say I'm down, but it's a new podcast. You know, we're changing the name. I'll always have the See-Through podcast, and it'll be mine. But it's like, I don't want to ever have anyone telling me what I can't say on something that I'm doing. You know, that's my free expression. That, again, we talk about, we're putting it out for free. And that's just how I choose to operate. Do I try to not offend people? Yes, I do. I don't want to ever purposely try to offend someone. But will I accidentally offend someone? Yes. And in those moments, should I be canceled for it? And should my accidental word that I used that I didn't even know was problematic, should that cancel out all of the 70 interviews I've done with people in the disability community trying to promote positivity and just kind of more, you know, it's like I'm actually doing something with the podcast versus someone who just tweets.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it doesn't give me like a hall pass to say whatever I want. But at the end of the day, like, what are these people who are tweeting actually doing? And, you know, what are they actually changing?
So we are going to cut there, because in classic guest fashion, we have spoken for far too long about interesting things, and Cleves will go in there with a big pair of scissors and go snip, snip, here's part 2 next week. Who said we pad out our content?
No one, that's who.
Yeah, and if they're listening and they say it, then I'll get cut.
Okay, we'll see you next week for part 2 with Lance Johnson.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Seesaw Podcast.
You can find us on Twitter at Seesaw Pod, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram and YouTube at Seesaw Podcast. You can also email us at seesawpodcast@gmail.com. Like, rate, review, subscribe, and then you can also find us on TikTok, but get us on all the other places. This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience.